All righty, ladies and gentlemen. So, as promised, this is the Dr. Phil episode I was telling you about. It was very interesting. I have some comments on it, and I'm hoping you share them with me. So, let's get started. Here you go.
Today on an all-new Dr. Phil. Defunding the police.
It's a complete disaster.
There's chaos at night. There's fires, there's shootings and stabbings. We don't have enough police.
Helpful cause?
People will do desperate things in order to survive. You're not solving anything by arresting those people.
For harmful ideas. We're not trying to win an argument, we're trying to solve a problem.
Now, one thing I want you to keep track of during this episode is the woke who are in favor of defunding the police are not in reality. It's all about emotions and feelings, and this is how it should be. And this is reality. This is how it is. You come in my house, guess what? You're going to eat some AR-15. Well, depending on my feeling, you might eat my Glock 34, but you're going to eat lead either way. I'm not having that shit. I'm not going to, because of your emotions and your special little houses, risk my family. Let's continue, shall we?
What's your take on all this?
Yeah, well, just as you said, Dr. Phil, one of the things that I thought was quite confusing from the beginning was when you say defund the police, depending upon whom you're talking to, it means different things to different people. So some people would say it means divest.
So this is former Sheriff of Seattle, Carmen Best. Now, keep in mind, when they started defunding the police, she was pretty much ran out of office by the woke city council. Up until then, she had been doing a great job of the city of Seattle. You could walk around, feel safe. You know, you really had no troubles. I was in Seattle quite a bit. I used to live in Washington State, you know, and then I saw it all go to hell. It went to hell from the point of my boy Kelly Kuchman. Check out Kuchman Tactical. He teaches firearms lessons and self-defense. Make sure you check him out. He also has a coffee company, Braveheart Mountain Coffee. Make sure you just Braveheart Mountain Coffee. But it went from the point of me not carrying a gun until I wouldn't even walk to my mailbox without my gun. I wouldn't let Tammy go to work in the morning. I'd walk her out armed. That's how bad it got. And we lived on a private golf course. So it's not like we were living in the hood. Not at all, actually.
And invest in other areas. Some people say it means abolish. And so we needed to at least have a clear definition to actually figure out what are we talking about when we say that. I do think that, as I've heard many times before, people want, when police respond, they want officers to be fair and just and have equity. The melanin in your skin should not determine the service of police service that you get. However, the facts bear out that there is disparity. So we need to find a path forward to reduce that disparity, to eliminate it, but also recognize that we've made a lot of movement and advancement, and we need to continue to work on that in a practical manner that makes all of us here safer.
Now, what she's saying is true, but you have to also understand the disparity. If I have 10 police officers in the suburbs, right, where there's almost no crime being committed, and I have 10 officers in the hood where there's a crime being committed every minute. Look at Houston. Look at Austin. I'm not even going to talk about Washington anymore. Well, I am, because they let that state go to shit. And the problem is it's a really beautiful state with a lot of really beautiful things going for it. But they let it go to shit because they took on all these blue values. But understand, cops are being overtaxed. You're going to have more mistakes. How many of you out there have ever worked overtime for any amount of time? You're going to make mistakes. I know it happened to me. It happens to everybody because cops at the end of the day are human. But let's continue, shall we?
We're talking about a society where 1 in every 1,000 Black
hold on. And then this woman's going to interfere a lot, and she talks a lot, and she really has nothing to say. So does the black guy. I don't appreciate it. I'm pretty sure you guys don't either. But understand, Carmen Best Defund the police people showed up at her house and her neighbors actually came out to defend her. They parked a couple of Ford F-150s in front of her house, and she was lucky, I guess, living in a redneck neighborhood, which is great. I live in a redneck area now and I love it. But they actually came out to defend her and turned the protesters away. They were meaning to do her and her family bodily harm. They said it.
Black men can expect to be killed by law enforcement. We have not made progress. When we talk,
The numbers of Black men who have been killed unarmed by law enforcement are so statistically low, it's ridiculous. So statistically low. This woman is speaking off emotion, and she's speaking from a place of, hey, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. That's what she's doing right now. Recognize that. Okay, that video just got defunded. All right.
talk about a society where Black folks in particular make up the majority of people that are profiled, targeted, incarcerated.
Because let's be realistic, Black people are the people committing the majority of the crime. Let's just be realistic and honest about it. And I'm not saying white people don't commit crimes. I've seen some sketchy white people I wouldn't hang around. I'm just saying.
By our criminal legal system, we are not talking about progress. Some things that I do want to address. Actually, there was not confusion about what defund means until law enforcement inserted that confusion. What I can say is that organizers, creators of this movement were always very clear that it was about redirecting resources to things that actually keep us safe.
Well, it might have been clear.
Now, I like the way Dr. Phil puts this, because what he says is true. No, you had Cori Bush coming out and saying, abolish the police. What citizen in their right mind, what law-abiding citizen is going to go for that nonsense? Now, I speak from a jaded perspective. My nephew's a cop. Matter of fact, he's about to run for Lee County Sheriff. I wish him the best of luck. If you're in Lee County, make sure you cast a vote for William Crenshaw. He'll clean this area up. Even though it doesn't need much cleaning, I mean, it's in the country. But the cows, you got to watch out for the cows.
Clear in the conference room. It might have been clear when y'all were meeting about it, but it wasn't clear on the streets. And it wasn't clear with all the people that took up the message and found the camera to stand in front of. Because I can show you 1,000 images that have the word abolish.
Cori Bush.
With defund. So the message got hijacked is.
No, it didn't. This is what they always meant. Here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. When you abolish the police, when you defund the police, right? People are going to take matters into their own hands because nobody's just going to be at the throes of these criminals. Sorry. No, I'd rather kill you than let you rob me or harm my wife. It's not going to happen. I'd rather put you down.
My point.
When you're
Closed casket.
saying, suddenly we see people talking about abolish. Well, defunding comes from an abolitionist perspective, right?
And here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's back to slavery. My God, I get so sick of hearing about it. I'm a descendant of slaves. I guarantee you this, whatever he is, it's not. Or he may be, I don't know. He could be. But I guarantee you he didn't grow up with the lifestyle I did. All excuses, all bullshit. Let's continue, shall we, people?
It is a long-term project that says, how do we create the conditions under which policing would not be necessary?
That's impossible. Human nature. That is impossible. Either you're going to have policing or you're going to have vigilantes.
And defund is the policy that says, well, a city budget has this much money going to police and this smaller amount of money going toward roads, towards housing, towards schools, towards recreation.
Why do you blame what's happening to Seattle on defunding the police?
I think people do misunderstand that word, and it's right there with abolishing the police. One city council started talking about defunding the police. Hell broke out.
She's not wrong. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes. Homelessness went through the roof. Crime went through the roof. Assaults went through the roof. So Seattle's plan was to hey, sexual assault, armed robbery, felony assault, we're going to make those misdemeanors, and then we're not going to allow the cops to arrest for misdemeanors. So it looks like their crime numbers came down. They didn't. They just no longer made shit crime, which is ridiculous. This video just got defunded again. All right.
Safe here. We've lost 300 to 400 officers. We're in crisis, and I think we're doomed. I don't even know if we can get back to where we were.
Which is one of the reasons I left. I got the hell out of there in a hurry. Now, let me explain the difference, right? In the broad daylight, I would not walk anywhere in Seattle without my gun. When I was running my real estate business, I always had my gun in my bag. I had one gun in my bag and one gun on me. Always. Down here where I am now, in the middle of the country, I set out in my front yard at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up early because my cats are assholes with no gun. Matter of fact, I think my gun is in a case somewhere because we have plenty of cops.
Well, Mark, you say San Diego is down 300 officers.
Yes, that's correct.
Has it had an effect?
It's been a horrible effect. The defunding plan has failed. It's a complete disaster. Our police are less safe, and the neighborhoods that need police the most are the ones that most affected, because it's the neighborhoods that are underserved, the underserved populations that need police. They can't afford to pay for pricey private securities or high-end surveillance cameras. Those are the people that are suffering, and make no mistake about it. Defund means take away money from police that were already running on tight budgets anyways. They didn't have enough money to do proper training. You know, officers have to have training. If you don't want the things to happen that you're claiming happens, then you have to train officers properly. And you have
$1 billion in training, $1 billion in cultural competency.
There's no such thing as $1 billion in training or anything like that. She's lying. Of course, I feel like this, so it must be the true thing. She's lying.
Training $1 billion in body cameras, $1 billion in all these things, and nothing is
And
better.
crime
And
is
I'm
up.
wondering
Your
what's planned,
program
because
made
the vast
crime go
majority of
up.
American
Your
cities
program
have
made
not
crime go up.
defunded.
Yes.
It just has
No.
not happened.
Crime has gone up.
The
Violent
system
crime.
is true. Defunding has just.
Of course it's happened. You can see it. It's on the news every fucking day. This video just got defunded again. That's fine. Of course it's happened. You can see it. I saw it personally. No, she probably lives in some gated community in a rich neighborhood. And so she doesn't see it. Of course, those people don't go down to these areas.
I'm sorry.
We're not trying to win an argument. We're trying to solve a problem here. Let me ask the question. Isn't it true that defunding pretty much across the board didn't really happen?
Yes, that's what's true.
Well,
Well,
New York-
budgets were reduced.
New York lost $1 billion.
But at least in
Hold up. Actually, Dr. Phil's wrong. Let me tell you why. It did happen. I saw it. I saw the money come out of I did a video on it. Go back and look at that video where they defunded their police. They took money away from their police in Seattle, and it just destroyed the city. It's a hellhole. Tammy's uncle, who grew up in Seattle back in the 70s, he was like, oh, blah, 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 and you guys should stay here in Washington. And it's like, no. So one day he went to Seattle. He came to visit us. He stayed with us. He went to Seattle, and he comes back. We're sitting out there. We're drinking bourbon. You know, it's like 8:30 at night. And he goes, that place is turned into a hellhole. I'm like, yes, it's a shithole. Same thing with Austin and Houston. It's just not Seattle.
LA, budgets were temporarily reduced. Most of the reduction was replaced with overtime with the officers they had, or the reduction was part of a citywide reduction. And most of the defunding diversion or reduction was regained the next year. So there hasn't really been a defunding of the.
In some cases,
That's
I think,
what's
Dr. Phil, respectfully, I think in some cases budgets were reduced. I think part of the reason that some of
And the reason she's saying that is because she was part of the city budget that was reduced. That's why she left. She resigned. She lost officers, a ton load of officers, and that budget stayed reduced, even though crime is up. What they did, like I said earlier, was just change the laws. So things that are crimes are no longer crimes. It's a downfall of society. Our society is melting down, and this is getting ridiculous. Get out of the cities if you can.
of the budgets were replaced and more money was given in because they saw the rise in crime and the rise in issues and wanted to mitigate some of those
So the
problems.
money came back.
And also,
Some of it.
Dr. Phil, when you have 9% inflation and gas prices that were pushing $10 a gallon in Los Angeles, and you leave the police budget the same, when healthcare goes up, when food prices go up, and you have these, everything went up. And my point is,
What's
by
your
not adding money, you're just defunding them just by
Why is
regular
the answer to
economics.
those problems police?
And adding money from where? Law enforcement in every major municipality across this country has the majority of the general funds. And I'll tell you all this, anything you want from fixing potholes to cleaning up your parks, when your electeds tell you they don't have the money, it's because badges and guns have that money.
Today,
Actually, it's because most of the money has been embezzled by people just like these two on your left that are talking bullshit.
Dr. Phil, it's chaos. We don't have enough police. Right now, we should be at around 230, 240 for a population of 72,000 people. We're barely at 175. There's chaos at night. There's fires. There's shootings and stabbings. It's a dangerous area. Even city employees are being attacked.
I want to introduce y'all to a man who wouldn't even be sitting here today if it weren't for the police. He says he once feared the police until one talked him off the ledge, literally. He now dedicates his life to advocating for suicide prevention and law enforcement. So Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate you, sir. Thanks for having me.
You had a life-changing experience with
Absolutely,
the
I
police.
did.
What happened?
March 11, 2005, I was overwhelmed. I had spent 22 years not dealing with my pain, lying about who I was. Born and raised in Oak, California, never talked about mental health, never talked about anything that had anything to do about feelings, emotions, and I got overwhelmed that day. And I drove myself to the Golden Gate Bridge, and on that day, I literally got out there. The only thing that stopped me was that officer, who I never even know at the time. I didn't even know he was an officer. I thought he was a human being. Later on, got to meet him 8 years later, and found out he was an officer, and it changed my perspective of how I looked at law enforcement. I used to call them cops, now I call them law enforcement, because I realize they are human beings and they're flawed, and they make mistakes, but they're not trained. The key word, what he said, they're not trained for certain things. They're trained to supposedly handle situations, but they're not trained to handle how they feel about themselves. They're trying to figure out their own lives along with having this job that expects them not to be human. And I think that we have to understand their point of view too. Now that I've been on both sides of it.
So how long did this stranger talk to you?
92 minutes.
Oh, specifically.
Yes, 92 minutes.
And he got you to walk away.
Well, could I just speak to that for a second with law enforcement? Because most police officers die because of suicide that are on duty. They don't die because they're hit by a car. They don't die because they were shot by a suspect. They take their own lives. And when you defund the police, you prevent them from having enough money to provide themselves with the mental health services they need.
I'm sorry, law
Exactly
enforcement
like it.
officers make so much money. We've got officers in Oakland that are making between $350,000 to $420,000 a year. And brother, I'm so glad you were sitting here.
You know what? I don't appreciate her fake concern. Name one police officer that's making $325,000 a year in Oakland. It's not happening. And if they're doing it through overtime and working other jobs. She is full of shit. You know what? I hate people like this. There's really nothing of value here after this. I just want to share that with you guys about Dr. Phil and everything. I think it was a really good episode. I loved it. But as always, like, subscribe, share. And I have some special announcements coming up tomorrow, or maybe later on this evening. I haven't decided yet. But thank you for watching. I appreciate it.